So we're here in your studio where you spend most of your weekdays when you're not gigging. And it's important that we talk about music here because music is something that if you don't prepare it properly, you don't buy it properly, you don't discover it properly, and you don't do everything that no one sees, the 75% of the work that goes on behind the scenes kind of thing, you're going to fall flat on your face when you're doing the stuff that's coming up in the modules that follow, right?
Yeah, for sure, yeah.
So in this lesson and in the next lesson, we're going to look specifically at your music and how you discover music, and then in the next lesson how you prepare that music and get it ready to DJ with. But this lesson is all about discovery. This lesson is all about how you get those new tunes in your collection. And how many tunes are we talking about? How many tunes a month would you say you add?
I'm probably adding 20 to 30 new tunes a month, I would say.
It's about one a day at most.
Yeah.
So people who think that they need to add hundreds of tunes to be a DJ, I kind of got it a bit wrong, I guess.
I would say so, yeah.
You've got to
It's more
buy carefully.
Quality, not quantity.
Yeah, okay. So let's get going then. How James Hype packs his library with the tunes that we know and love him for.
Yeah.
So to start with, where do they come from?
Well, the first place I'm going to show you is Beatport, because that is where I'm getting the majority of my tunes from. And even if I download them from promo in my email, the chances are I'm going to discover them on Beatport.
So you'll discover a tune on Beatport and then just go and check your email and find that someone's actually emailed
somebody's
you the
already
promo,
sent it to me. Yeah.
So you don't have to buy it. Okay, so we've got Beatport here now to look at.
Yep.
So I guess when you are in your, once a week, once every couple of weeks, it's time to sit down and buy tunes.
Yeah.
You sit down, you fire up Beatport. Where do you go? What do you do?
Well, importantly, you need to make sure that you've got an account, because then Beatport's going to recommend things to you that it thinks you're going to like. When you've got an account, you can follow artists, you can follow record labels, and then you're going to tell the Beatport algorithm, oh, that's what I like, I'm looking for more of the same. And then once you start buying things on the account as well, then it knows what you buy. So it has a pretty good idea of the type of things that I like. It's not always on point, but straight away on the homepage we can see recommended. And if I start listening to these tracks straight away, there's going to be one of these that jumps out at me like, yep, that sounds like something I would buy. All of these artists are people who I've bought records from before, or labels that I've bought.
So these are a bit like if you're used to using a streaming service, for instance, they're like the Discover Weekly or the...
Exactly, yeah.
The tracks that the algorithm has picked for you.
Exactly, yep. And then past that, once we've kind of exhausted the recommended, there's other really simple ways to find new music, like genres, whatever music you think you play. I think my sound right now identifies best with tech house. So let's go tech house. We got the really obvious top 10 along the right hand side. It's good to listen to them. Don't necessarily download them just because they're in the top 10. Like, obviously that's what's popular, but if you were to just play what's popular, then you would essentially just be a tech house Spotify playlist. So there's another part on this page. You've got the Tech House Hype Top 10.
It's not named after you, is it?
No, I don't think it is. And this tends to be stuff that's maybe, it's not doing as many sales as these tunes, but it might be by like new artists or brand new labels and things, and it seems to be getting a lot of attention, even though it's not the best selling music. I think that's how it works.
So it's a bit more upfront, a bit more edgy, more, the potential future.
And that's kind of where you're going to find some more edgy stuff that isn't necessarily the biggest tune on there. I think it's also really important to dig deeper when you're on here. Like, for example, if we just look at this, for example, Pump Up the Jam Night Funk remix. I remember first hearing that a few weeks back and it was like, yo, this is a banger. Who's Night Funk? Let's go. Now we're looking at Night Funk. We can look at every tune that Night Funk have ever done. So even for Night Funk, we got the top 10 down the right hand side. So that's the most popular one, the one that we went on. But if we were to go back, let's look what he was doing 2 years ago. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, he's obviously a really cool artist right now, but he hasn't just appeared out of nowhere. So he's undoubtedly got some other cool stuff online. The other thing we can do, okay, he's got a release here. It's on Glasgow Underground. Now, I know that label puts out some stuff that I like, but even if I didn't know what that label was, I might still click on it because they're putting out music by Night Funk, and I like Night Funk.
Yeah.
So let's check out Glasgow Underground. We've now got top 10 releases by Glasgow Underground ever. And we've got new releases, their latest releases. If we look through this, I can already see some artists that I know, like Joshua. I play some of his tunes. So all these kind of things are kind of coming together, and this is one of those things that you could get lost in all day, and you can keep discovering things that you're like, wow, that's 2 years old, but I never heard it, and it's amazing.
So there's another question that occurred to me then. Are you happy to buy stuff that's new to you, but that isn't new, that's 2 years old or something?
Totally. Yeah, totally.
As far as you're concerned, that's
totally.
fair game.
The thing with Beatport is there's so many labels and so many artists that it's always new to somebody.
Okay, so as you're doing this, as you're moving around artists, labels, hype charts, main charts, genres and so on, you're going to be clicking on stuff to give it a listen.
Yeah.
And what happens next?
Well, I've selected some tracks that I thought were notable for one reason or another when I was going through, and I'm just going to kind of show you like how my ear listened to these and what I thought I could do with them. Like this one's a really nice example. Freaks Tweakers, the Walker and Royce remix. It's quite a full track. There's a lot going on, but it has this breakdown in the middle, and as soon as I heard it, my brain was like, oh, that's an iconic moment, like in a club, iconic moment, and you could definitely put an acapella over it. So let's play this part. We'll skip to where the action is. So I would mix it in from somewhere around here. And then I might set an automatic loop here. I might set a hot cue loop here, and then drop a vocal in over the top. Like, it's a really simple instrumental, really simple but effective. You can drop an acapella over this and have a totally new tune straight away. And then you've got this nice big build-up, progressive build-up. I think it's 32 bars. So you're going to have the crowd really hyped with an acapella over this whole thing. There's a little bit of vocal in the background, but it's nothing that would overpower something else. So you could definitely add to this without it being too much.
So people, I've been sat with James for a little while before we turn the camera on. He actually clicks back and back and back on a sound and imagines a loop in his head on these waveforms. So you do a lot of work thinking about these tunes before buying them.
Yeah, so for me this one's a super useful track straight away. Obviously Beatport's limiting me, I can't hear the whole thing, but you've heard the build up. You could layer an acapella over that, make it really exciting. You get the idea just from that. The drop's big, and we can hear, even if we can't hear this drop, we can hear the drop before, which is, so you get an idea. It's a big aggressive drop. So yeah, that's a no-brainer. That's straight in the basket. Let me find some other ones. So I picked out this one by Don't Blink, and I play quite a lot of tunes by Don't Blink. It's really good. It really fits for my sound. And I listened to this one, and straight away I'm hearing a lot of vocal. It's got these vocal chops all over the place. All good, which is cool. I like it here. Cool, it's nice. I like it. It drops good. But then the vocal kind of carries on, and the vocal's dominating the whole way through. It's got this going on still in the vocal, and it takes up a lot of the listener's attention. Like, it sounds cool, but I don't think the vocal in this is strong enough for me to use this as a vocal track. It's not like people aren't going to sing along to this. No one's going to sing along to this.
They're using the vocal just as an instrument.
But the issue for me with this is there's no space for me to fit any more vocal in this. Like,
there's no obvious acapella place.
There's a lot of vocal going on already. So if I was to throw an acapella over this or another sound over this, it's going to be really full, and it might just sound like a bit of a mess. So even though I like listening to this and like I could hear this in a club, I don't think it's going to fit in one of my sets, because I don't want to play this tune without modifying it.
So you're picking tunes based upon how you think you can use them, as we talked about in your rules. It's not just a case of buying what you like, which a lot of DJs will do because their mixing style isn't so upfront that it's an issue for them. They'll play it beginning to end because they like it, and that's cool for their style.
Totally.
But when you're doing James Hype style mixing, you've got to be looking for the parts of the tunes and starting to think how you would use them. Okay.
Yeah. Got another one here. This is a great example of something that I look for my sets all the time. It's really straight up, like almost old school sounding tech house, really groovy, heavy, low end, and there is no vocal in it. So I can do whatever. It's banging, it's big, and it's got no vocal in, so I can do whatever I want with this. So skip to the breakdown. I can do whatever I want over this. I could put a really singy acapella over it. I could put a rap acapella over it. I could even put something like destination Calabria a cappella,
yeah,
like bam, 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 over the top. You could do anything with this, and like, it's just a nice standard 909 snare build up. It's going to get to that drop. I could have anything going over this, and the drop's everything you want it to be. And even on the drop, I could even still be running the a cappella over this drop part because it still has space for it.
Yeah.
So there's endless possibilities with a track like this. So I would always buy a track like this and get it in the collection.
Okay. So anything else that's jumping out at you at the tunes that we've got here?
Okay, so I saved a couple of others. This one is a good example of a tune that I wouldn't really play with anything else. But as soon as I heard it, I knew where I was going to mix it in from. So it's got this epic breakdown, which instantly goes into this banging techno, like pre-drop bit. So, like, that totally fits in my set. The sound totally fits in my set. And we can't hear this part here. We can't hear this because Beatport's blocked us from hearing it without purchasing it. But I just know straight away, I'm going to mix it in from about there.
Yeah.
I'm going to have that 8 bars there leading into the breakdown. And then we'll do maybe even build it up to the breakdown, and then you've got this epic. The club's like woo. So even though I would play this solidly, like without adding things to it, I still know already how I would play it. I'm not playing it from here. I'm playing it from right before this epic breakdown.
Yeah. So there's a tool. There's a part of the track that you've got a solid idea that's going to fit into your sets, and I'm going to guess that you have lots of other tech house tracks like the previous one. You have lots of other tracks with epic breakdowns like this. It's almost like here's another one of those. Here's a new one of those. Here's a something to refresh that thing that I do. Okay. So do you want to show anything else here, or should we move on and start looking at what happens next?
I think we should move on.
Before we do though, we've only looked at Beatport here, and that's all we're going to look at explicitly. But where else might you buy tunes, for instance, say you can't find it on Beatport?
Okay, so there is an example of this. If you're looking for like older music, sometimes there'll be older music that's not necessarily on a dance music label. Maybe it'll be on a major label, and for that reason it might not be on Beatport. And in that scenario, like I would go to whatever other music store is available. Make sure, mainstream music store. It could be iTunes or another one, and you're just looking for a high quality MP3 of that tune, just to make sure that it's still going to sound good. Like there are tunes out there that you can't get on Beatport.
Do you Shazam tunes?
I do. Yeah, I do. Sometimes I'll be listening to a mix on Mixcloud and I'll Shazam something, and then I'll have like a list of things that I've Shazammed on my phone, and I'll get over to Beatport, see if I can find those, and then sometimes you Shazam stuff and it's not even released yet.
Okay, so we're now at the point of buying tunes. I don't think we need to show anyone how to go to
We'll show them the credit card details.
An online cart and click buy.
Yeah.
But what happens next? What happens to these tunes next now that you've got them? Now that they're in your downloads folder?
We're going to land in my downloads folder, and from there I'm going to drag them to a specific folder, my Record Box Library folder. Once they're in the Record Box Library folder, I use Mixed in Key to analyse the key of the tune. I'll drag them all into Mixed in Key, and then Mixed in Key will write a new part in the metadata, which tells me what key it's in along the Camelot wheel. And then from that Record Box Library folder, I'm going to drag them into Record Box, and that's where we're going next.
Okay, so you use Mixed in Key, but that's because you've been using Mixed in Key since way before key detection
like 1989.
arrived. Yeah, way before it arrived in DJ software. You don't have to use Mixed in Key. You're just as able to use the built-in key detection in Rekordbox, in Serato, in Traktor, whatever it is you use. They've all got key detection in now. James is stuck with Mixed in Key. One of the things with key detection software is you ought to use only one, because they'll give you slightly different results. And so you don't want to change from Mixed in Key. You're very happy with it, but it's not essential, people. Okay, so shall we move over to Rekordbox?
Let's go.
So what I'd like you to show us here, James, because in the next lesson we're going to look a lot more closely at how you prepare and beat grid and cue and loop and make playlists and all that stuff. All I want to see here is when you first get these tracks into your software, what do you do immediately?
Okay, well, straight away I've got a few genre tags on the right hand side here which I use, and first of all, we got this Tweakers track, which we just looked at on Beatport, which is this one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I've tagged this one straight away. The only tag I've used on this is good instrumentals. And the idea of the good instrumentals tag is it's something that I can play an a cappella over, and it kind of needs to have a heavy drop as well to clarify as a good instrumental.
Yeah, yeah.
The next example, right? This is the other one that I played on Beatport, which is it's like nice tech house, and it's got this super empty build up and breakdown. The one that I can do whatever I like with.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this has been tagged as good instrumentals because you can play an a cappella over it, and it's got a nice drop. It's also tagged as underground tech. This one doesn't feel like underground tech to me. If you listen, it's a lot bigger than what I would consider to be underground tech. Now this is like the fine details of genre, and it's the type of thing that evolves all the time anyway. And
it's going to be different for everyone. The idea of this course is not that you look at all James's genres, although we'll talk through them and copy him. The idea is that you divide your tracks up into buckets that work for you.
Exactly.
That say something to the way you want to DJ.
Yeah, like sonically, this track would fit well sonically with a more big room tech style of playing, whereas the sonics of this track are a lot more underground in the way that it's not, even just looking at the waveform, you can see the waveform is relaxed, it's not slammed, it's not, like, we're getting into musical technicalities which isn't necessary, but like you can imagine the type of club where this would feel right, and you can imagine the type of club where this would feel right, and I don't believe they're the same place.
Okay.
And that's what makes this one underground tech for me. And so the beauty of having these genre tags is I'm able to tag it good instrumental and underground tech.
Yeah, okay, so not everyone has tags. In fact, the only piece of DJ software that does have the ability to tag is Rekordbox. So if you're a Serato user, Traktor user, Virtual DJ user, or any other DJ software come to that, you're going to need to find another way of doing this. Now, look, you could use the genre column. You could use it, but the trouble with the genre column is you can only put one genre in it. But you can actually put more than one thing in columns in DJ software. So you could put 2 genres in the genre column and then use intelligent playlists, smart crates, whatever the rules-based crate system or playlist system is in your software, to make a sort, to make a filter, so that you can have folders of stuff that includes these tags. Yeah. So it is possible by that very small hack to have multiple genre tags against files. So just to let people know who aren't Rekordbox users.
The nice thing about using these genre tags as well is once things are tagged correctly, I can search for a good instrumental that works with the Camelot Key 5A, and it's going to find me straight away. It'd be like, oh, you've got 10 options here. The other useful thing is within my playlists on the left, I have smart playlists for everything tagged with good instrumentals.
Yeah, okay.
And that's all the tracks with that tag on them.
So make use of your genre tagging, make use of your intelligent playlists, smart crates, whatever they're called, the rules-based playlist system in your software to start drilling down into your music. And I guess the other thing is there's no good doing this unless you actually are keeping on top of your metadata in your titles and so on. So is there anything you do when tracks come in to change what is written in that metadata to help you? Anything that you add or?
I think it's important to make sure that they're clean straight away. Like you'll sometimes get tracks coming in. I don't if you're downloading them from other websites. Sometimes the website will have downloaded from this website in there. So I think it's important to clean out that stuff and make sure that you've just got the essentials like the title, the artist, and then the key if you have that information.
And actually that makes sense because if you're searching in the search box, quite often your software will search everywhere in the metadata. So you might get results that you don't want because there's something tucked away in the composer column that you didn't know was there, right? Okay. And I noticed you've got ACA by a few tracks there. What does that mean?
ACA is my shorthand for a cappella.
So you've also got that ticked as an a cappella.
Yeah, we've got a cappella in the genre tags there, which gives me my a cappellas intelligent playlist here.
Why do you put it in the title, in the track title as well?
I just want to be able to know what everything is really quickly. So there'll be some tracks in here where I've got the let me find this for example. So More Than Friends is obviously a track that I've got 1,000 versions of because it's my own track. But straight away we can see, if I'm scrolling past this on a CDJ, we can see that has big capital letters Aka. So I'm definitely not going to load that onto a deck
thinking it's the
original tune, and that's what's important for me. I don't want to end up in that situation where it's like, oh no, that's the acapella, when I thought it was going to be beats I could mix into.
So don't feel that you can't hack this stuff to work in the way you want it to work. There's no rules about this, people. So you can, if there's something you want to put against certain tracks in the title, go for it, do it. And anything else you add? By the way, actually, before we go there, where do you get acapellas from? Because we haven't talked about this specifically.
Yeah, acapellas. There are no real secrets here. I think quite a lot of people think that I have a secret source for acapellas. I don't. There are a couple of core websites that you may have come across before. You've got acapellas4u.co.uk, acapellas.eu, vocala.it. Do feel like there's one or two others, but they're going to be in the notes.
There's going to be Google searches.
Yeah, Google search. Like quite often you'll find if there's a brand new track that's just come out by like a really big artist, the acapellas might not be on those sites, but if you Google it, guarantee you someone's made an acapella and uploaded it to YouTube. And as long as you've bought that original song, I don't see any problem with using the YouTube Ripper and getting that questionable quality acapella from YouTube.
Because you bought the track anyway, you're using it as a DJ tool, so ethically you're on, even if not legally, because God knows how the
I don't even know where that is legally.
200 countries in the world, but you know, ethically you're probably on fair enough ground.
Yeah, I would say so.
To do that.
Yeah.
So talk about quality, because you know, YouTube rips and slightly grey sources for tracks that are renowned for not sounding that good.
Yeah, if I personally would never play a YouTube rip of a full track. Like if I was to YouTube rip this track and play it, then I would be able to tell straight away. We're in a studio now, so it sounds quite good. You might not always be able to tell, but I would be able to tell from a YouTube rip that there's no low end. The low end's like the proper sub bass is all muffled and rubbish, and the real top end, like the hi-hats and the cymbals, they're all just a bit like crunchy, and then they don't sound right. And that's the first thing that you would notice with a YouTube rip. So for a dance music track, it's a no-go for me. You can't be playing YouTube rips. It might sound all right off a laptop speaker or something, but as soon as you get on a proper sound system, you're going to notice, and it'll be like, ooh. But when it comes to a vocal, you don't have sub bass in a vocal, and you don't really rely on that really shiny top end in a vocal. A vocal kind of, in the frequency spectrum, a vocal sits in the middle.
Which is the bit that low quality rips tend to do all right on.
Yeah, so the low quality rips, they don't really destroy a vocal in the same way that they destroy a whole track. Now, I'm not saying you should go straight to a YouTube ripper for every acapella you need, but what I am saying is if you really want an acapella and it only exists on YouTube and it sounds all right, don't be afraid to rip it and use it.
Now look, if anyone's thinking, I'm not convinced by this. Nowadays there is software that will do it for you, and nowadays it's even built in to some DJ software. So who's to know you haven't just loaded it up into one of those pieces of DJ software and taken everything away but the voice?
Yeah.
It's kind of more and more accepted to do this nowadays, and it's possible in lots of ways.
It's just a case of using your imagination. Like I've got a lot of acapellas, and people are like, where have you got that acapella? Like a great example of this is Camel Fat Cola. So I play an acapella of Camel Fat Cola. I might even play this now for the demonstration. Right? And I made this myself.
Got ready for the night in. She's heading for the lights.
And if you listen carefully,
she sees the vision going.
You'll be able to hear within this acapella that you can hear like a bass line going on in the background. There's some weird noises going on in the background. And basically, I made this in Ableton by ripping it out of, I think it's a Frankie Rizzardo remix of Cola, where the vocal plays just with the bass line. And I was able to make this in Ableton by using really hard EQ, cut out the bass line. And when you listen, the point here is, I'm quite good with Ableton, so I'm not saying everybody can do that, but the point here is, I made this acapella. It doesn't sound very good, but when you play it in a mix with one other track, two other tracks going on, you're not noticing all of the badness. Your ear listens to just the vocal. I would never play that out of speakers by itself. However, I can play it in a bed of music, and
it's
all
okay.
all you're noticing is the vocal. You can get away with it.
Now, we're not going to go too far into your production techniques, because you're clearly spend a lot of time in a studio producing music, and that gives you access to tools which we wouldn't expect people taking this course to have access to.
Yeah.
So you load up acapellas, you restructure them, you loop them up, and so on. And one thing you do, which I'd like to draw people's attention to, and then give people a very quick, instant way of doing it themselves, is you like to output acapellas at different pitches. So you might have the original acapella, and then you'll have a couple of other versions, higher and lower. So tell us why you do that, and tell us what other versions you output, and then I'll kind of share with the audience a very easy way of doing this, just from a DJ's point of view when you're not a producer.
Okay. So this is a good example of an acapella where I've got several different versions of the same acapella, and I'll play you a few examples. So this one, original pitch, Ocean Drive acapella.
We're riding down the boulevard.
And now you'll see that there are 3 more versions. Now this is the acapella, 1 semitone lower.
We're riding down the boulevard.
2 semitones lower.
We're riding down the boulevard.
And you can already tell by the name that
Yeah,
the
I'm
next
gonna
one.
I'm gonna guess.
Yeah, the next one is 3 semitones lower.
Why not any higher? Just because in that instance you didn't want them higher.
It's just a vocal that sounds good pitched down.
Right. Okay.
I think men sound good pitched down, and girls sound good pitched up.
Okay, that's a good tip.
Yeah, that's just personal preference, and that's obviously it's a male vocal, so I just pitched it down naturally.
Yeah. Okay. So the reason you do this is
Well, the reason I would do this is I can now use Ocean Drive in a mashup with a track that's in 1A, a track that's in 6A, a track that's in 11A, and a track that's in 4A. So I've now got options of what I want to do with Ocean Drive.
no, you would never do it kind of 7 semitones down or 8 semitones up or something, because it's too far away.
If you go too far, it's no longer going to sound like a human vocal. It's going to sound weird, but you can get away with 2 or 3 semitones either side. Use your brain. Like what sounds all right. What
Because
doesn't.
some vocals just sound terrible, even one note away from
they
where
can
they
do,
should be, don't they? So you output these in your production software, but people don't have to do that. So the way you can do this, if you haven't got production software, you don't want to go there, is just load it up into your DJ software. Use your DJ software's key change feature to move it to the key that you want. Hit record in that software. Get that file out, put it back into your DJ software. There you go. There's your acapella at a different key. Now, acapella's at a different BPM. So while you're there in your software, in your production software, are you ever tempted to kind of put them at a BPM you're likely to use them at, or does that not really bother you?
Sometimes I will do that. Like, there is one example where I would do this. If I was trying to play an acapella in a house music set, and the acapella was like 95 BPM. You could do that with CDJs, but you would have to change the pitch range to 100% or wide, which gives you very little control over very fine pitch changes.
Yeah, so it's a bit like using a sledgehammer to knock a nail in kind of
It
thing.
kind of is, yeah. So it is doable, but it's really not ideal. So in that scenario, I might take my 95 BPM acapella, put it into Ableton, and make it 110 BPM. Because if I do that, I can leave the pitch range on the CDJ on plus and minus 16.
Which is where you like to have it.
Which is where I like to have it.
Yeah.
And then I can get it up to 126 BPM, which is where I would play. So it's sort of half cheating, but half not.
But why wouldn't you just put it to 126?
I wouldn't put it to 126 because I don't want to feel like I've pre-synced all my tracks. I also don't want people to look at me and think, oh, he's pre-synced all this
Right,
track.
okay.
People still do. But
Because of course you don't DJ with sync. It's one of the things, one of the ways you DJ. So you want to be able to be not only to do it, but to be seen to do it, to load a track and then adjust its pitch to get it right. It's part of your DJing. It's the pitch adjustment.
Yeah.
All right, so we've talked about acapellas, we've talked about your main tracks, we've talked about labeling and relabeling, and I think we've covered what I wanted to cover in the way you discover music here and the way you get music into your library. Just one more thing to point out though, because you use Rekordbox, which is where we are here, but anyone who uses any of the big DJ software brands will have a view that's similar to this, a library view or a view that knocks out the decks by and large.
Yes.
So it doesn't matter what you're using, you are able to organize your music in this way. You won't have all the features here. The tags are one that only Rekordbox has at the moment, but you'll have everything we've seen so far. And even in the next lesson, when we're going to get on to talking about how James alters his tracks to prepare them for DJing, which we haven't gone near yet. So this is loops and cues and memory cues and playlists and all that kind of thing. Even in the next lesson, your DJ software, whatever you're using, will be able to do everything we see. So don't think you've got to somehow get this software to do this stuff.
Yeah.
It works in all DJ software, but you use Rekordbox, which is why we're looking at this one. Okay, so we've covered all those things here. It's the second half of your kind of music preparation in the next lesson.